thank you for coming over. We are quite pleased with a nice turnout. Before I turn into introductions of my distinguished panelists, I wanted to elaborate a bit about crowdsourcing overall. So if you look into the word itself, I think it's been around for about a decade. I think the first time it was used was back in 2006. And since then, actually, I think it evolved into many different directions. But industries overall, not only our industries, are still trying to figure out what it is and how actually we could leverage that. And I think we've seen some nice success in that space over time. And I wanted to name a few that you can probably familiarize yourself with. So starting with NASA, that has been actually crowdsourcing their innovation for many, many years. And if you're familiar with the Open Innovation Project at NASA, they've been successfully actually leveraging the power of crowd to come up with innovations that typically they would have spent way more time and way more money. And there are some estimates that over the course of the time, they managed to save hundreds of millions of dollars by actually doing that. Another example that I think is a bit closer to our industry is a creative agency called Havas, who in 2012 actually acquired an agency who specialized in crowdsourced design services. And it appears that this acquisition has been working out for them quite well. And the trend is not only about outsourcing innovation or the basic tasks. The way I see it is it actually evolves into trying to leverage the unused capacity of the crowd. And the two examples I wanted to mention in that aspect is Airbnb, that some of you might be familiar with. Airbnb is a platform that allows to rent your space that you're not leveraging to strangers, right? So if you have a room or a flat that you want to rent out when you move out, Airbnb allows you to do that. So in a way, crowd is contributing in the sharing and leveraging the unused space and capacity. And the last example that builds on that I think fits into the overall trend is Uber, where not only we are using an unleveraged capacity of the cars, but we are also using the unleveraged competency of the people who are the driver. For those who are not familiar, Uber is actually challenging the taxi industry globally, including Poland. They are actually here in Katowice and Krakow. Personally, I'm a big fan. So what I wanted to do today is to explore that subject a bit and see how and if crowdsourcing as a trend can impact our industry and look at it through a couple of different angles, starting with how will it impact the people that we hire, then look into the processes that potentially could be touched by crowdsourcing, and then moving into more physical world and talking a bit on how this will actually change the infrastructure, the offices, the buildings, and the setups of our businesses, closing that with some business questions, whether this is actually a risk to our industry or an opportunity that will allow us to grow further. So I wanted to start with a round of introduction. If you guys could introduce yourself, tell us briefly who you are, what you do, and some of your experience highlights.
Zuzanna Mikołajczyk. I'm a commercial and marketing director at Mikomax Smart Office. We're a strategic partner of ABSL in Poland in area of workplace. We help you as our customers as well to design more tailored offices for business. And actually my area of interest is smart working as a general as an idea, and all of new ideas for offices, also what we will talk about later.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sylvia Piechnik. I'm working for an international development company, creating an office and retail buildings in Europe. I'm responsible for leasing in our company, and I would like a little bit to discuss the future of the offices in the context of crowdsourcing.
Thank you.
Marcin Tchórzewski, with the shared service industry for, I've been counting recently, almost 11 years. Recently I had been developing and growing the shared service center for Arla Foods.
Krzysztof, Misiak, partner head of regional cities. So I'm actually working in a firm who's dealing with solutions for real estate, commercial real estate market. So we do a lot with office occupiers, and obviously, the biggest portion of our, let's say, occupiers business comes from SSC and IT sector.
Thank you.
Agnieszka Kubera, managing director from Accenture. Accenture is a global consulting company, and we are having 5 major let's say, pillars, which is Accenture Strategy, Accenture Digital, Accenture Technology, Consulting, and Operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnieszka. So let's start with the first and a general question that I think will help us frame the discussion. How do you actually define crowdsourcing? Aga, can we start with you?
Yes, and I think it is a typical dilemma. What really you mean by crowdsourcing? There are so many definitions. I tried to pick one, which is, I believe, not very complex. Yeah, so this is a practice of obtaining needed services or content or ideas from the larger group, and typically in such a case we are referring to the group which is online users. Sometimes it can be as well, it can refer to the internal resources, yeah, but it is more, let's say, less frequent than really going to external users.
So how would you say we could translate it into our world of shared services? Have you seen examples of crowdsourcing being used in the centers?
I would say this is starting. This is really a trend which is right now visible. So we can see that even we mentioned recently that there is a lot of startups which are growing in Poland, like in Krakow area. So more and more companies are really looking for reusing those, for example, startups to bring new ideas, to bring new innovation. And this innovation can come in terms of, for example, solutions, but this can come as well as, for example, product innovations. So yes, it is visible, and we have number of, I think, shared services even represented in this room that already they put this in place.
So the trend itself, supposedly, if it becomes a main wave within our industry, potentially it can impact the people that we hire. Marcin, any thoughts on that? Like, how would it impact a line employee within the shared service center if we started crowdsourcing some of our services?
I think there's a lot that can change, but I think the question is, will it change? It's very similar to discussions about robotics and all the trends that are happening right now. Are we going to lose all the employees? Are robots are going to replace us? I think it's going to be a hybrid. And looking at some of the experience that I've had, not necessarily with crowdsourcing, because we had a discussion before the panel. Is it something new, or has somebody just come up with a name that we can now name what has been a trend for many years? And from my perspective, I think that the first steps are already taking place. When you look at some of the services that are, and the example would be translation services, something that has been crowdsourced for many years. I don't think it has ever been called crowdsourced. Right now, with the enablement of the technology, with companies coming in with workflow solutions, where you just pick a translation as a task, something that people in the shared service industry are very used to, because we do work with workflows. It is already crowdsourced. I mean, this is the way to do it, and if nobody's really putting those jobs in the shared service center. Another thing from my perspective would be various peaks and valleys. The question is how ready companies are to really enable access to the system, enable the technology. Of course, we're also probably going to talk about how we retain the knowledge, how we train people who are to help us with it. But I do remember having to hire people for a few hours extra during Monday and Tuesday, because these were peak operation times. Why did they have to come to the office? They could have logged in remotely and continue to work with us. They did not have to be our employees. So I think it's going to be complementary versus something that is going to replace the shared service and BPO industry.
I think you tapped on an important point, which is that we actually had been doing that for many years, leveraging a number of freelancers for different activities of running our centers. So assuming that this trend continues and we see a number of freelancers or contracted employees growing, Krzysztof, do you think that this will require a different type of management skill set or leadership skill set? What would the crowdsource manager of the future be like?
I believe so. When we talk to our clients, how they, let's say, perceive the, let's say, control freak approach, which used to be, quite a typical management skill years ago. Now it's changing, Anyway, even when we look at our business, so we are, because of some geographical limitations, we have to be spread over the country. And as a manager, I'm not interested in controlling what my people are doing every hour. So I'm rather interested in what tasks are doing, how we can interact together. So definitely a bit more flexibility and open-minded approach, as well as different approach to hours. Yes, what the office hours should be, or how should we allow people to balance their private lives. So this is some kind of interesting junction between let's say the task we are doing at the office, and how the whole society is changing, how new generation perceive their own task they want to be involved in. So that's something which I believe requires completely different approach from managers and leaders. And that's what we are observing for a couple of years already, especially when it comes down to businesses where HR is becoming a big issue, where companies are looking for, let's say, new opportunities, are looking how they can be, more to the employee, how can offer them different environment or different, structure of work, which makes them as an employer more attractive on a labor market, which is, I think, quite key now.
Mm-hmm. So this time flexibility and the way people can actually engage themselves with the company that buys the service from them seems like a good benefit, especially for the generation that it's entering now the marketplace. Agnieszka, do you think there are any other employer benefits if you look at it at the trend from the employee perspective or the service provider perspective? What else would you see is in it for an crowdsourced employee?
I think that just looking at the, let's say, because we have different stakeholders in this discussion. So one is, of course, the company which is using crowdsourcing, another is employee. So let me a little bit come from the company, because this is giving a lot of extra flexibility. It is definitely giving, for example, you can search and get the talent 24/7. Yeah. You can really, as we discussed, you can really get this for the peak season as additional capacity. But this is as well giving you certain cost effectiveness, because you actually take the specific work when you need, exactly when you need. Not you don't pay for the whole period. So this is just two examples. From the employee perspective, I think it is definitely let's say responding to the new generation demand, right? To really be focused on the work which you really know. So not really doing some tasks which you are not interested in. You can work in the moment when you actually can spend time and you can dedicate to work. And moreover, I think, which is very, very nice, is that you can be involved in the innovation, in the creating something new, in really connecting with the people who are sharing the same passion. So this is really something which I think for many last years was a challenge, how to address a new generation, and this is creating very nice alternative for this even young people, but as well older people, to really join and join the regular workforces.
I think what's interesting here is what we can do, because I had a chance to speak to a number of people who are actually working in this field on a bit more flexible approach to interaction with the company. So I think what's important from employee perspective, that they still want to feel as a part of the team, part of the group, and the company has to provide some platform for people to interact, also face to face, not necessarily only on Skype or emails or other IT platforms, but they want to meet the other peers and they want to interact, which is also interesting if it comes down, let's say, to office environment.
So would you say that the utopian vision of the business services professional working somewhere from a house on the beach, working whenever he or she wants, is possible?
I think it is possible, but my thought was that is this person will actually feel part of the organization, because there are of course some tasks which you can do whenever you want, wherever you want, but there's more and more complex solutions where we need interaction and we need teamwork. So there are not that many tasks you can do just alone as an island somewhere.
I think it's also depends what value we want to deliver, because maybe for some people this beach is a perfect solution and what they do is it's alright. But and I think startups are there because people actually want to, as Agnieszka said, they want freedom, so they want to choose what actually they're doing and they want to bring value. They wouldn't spend so many hours doing something which is worthless. So that's why for me it's actually right now a perfect moment where people who don't want to work in corporations but they want to have a value can have some kind of airbag with working with corporations. So they have this possibility of having what they want, the freedom, but at the same time they have some kind of airbag of working with big companies.
So how do you ensure that the crowd you're engaging into the process actually share the values of your company? Any thoughts on that?
We're coming back to leaders, yes. So
I think you have to
yeah.
communicate the values, and if people they appeal to the people, then more or less they are looking for the same thing. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think we need to come back to what you mentioned earlier. Is it crowdsourcing in terms of obtaining resources that are linked to your company only because they're working on a particular project and then they jump to another company and work on a different project, or more internally that you want them to feel that they are part of your organization, that they're part of the culture, but they're spread all over the world because the technology enables that. And to the point about the beach, it all depends on the job that you have. I mean, before the crowdsourcing, let's even forget about it, because I still believe it's a great idea, and I still believe it's going to develop. But the companies today, they're especially when you look at your industry, when you look at BPOs, when you look at shared services, there are jobs that don't have a desk assigned. Their primarily place is home, and they can do it from the beach. They can do it from whenever. These are not typical transactional jobs. These are project jobs. My wife works very similarly, with her boss being in Glasgow, her peers being in Manila and in Krakow, and she works from Gdansk and from Sopot. So those things are already happening. The question is how we then work with people that are not part of the organization. How do we engage them, and do we have to? A colleague of mine, a good friend of mine actually, is a great example. He runs, I think, one or two of his own companies. He's an IT professional. He also works for an organization on different projects. He was called to spend next 2 or 3 months in the office working on the project. He doesn't understand why he has to do it. He's frustrated that he has to go to the office. Even though he's excited about the project, he's excited about the company that he is doing the project for. And when I work in shared services, when I work with people that are very IT focused and don't have IT jobs, and when we talk about what makes them stay, what is exciting for them, it's much more about the project and initiative that they work on versus the organization and the company. So I think this is something that with leadership we can build on versus really trying to get them connected and transformed into becoming employees.
So let's talk a bit about how crowdsourcing could go farther from like the typical innovation or design tasks. Agnieszka, do you see any first aspects of the services across the BPO services portfolio that potentially could be outsourced? Can you envision, a number of accountants or financial specialists working from the beach and doing part of the process?
I think we are coming to the point to discuss what really process can be crowdsourced, because this is not everything can be really crowdsourced. And this is, I come back to the discussion which we had some time ago about agile approach versus waterfall. So not everything can be replaced by agile approach, yeah, but and the same, not everything can be done through the crowdsourcing. Just few examples. In order to, for example, to pre-select certain services for the crowdsourcing, first of all, they need to have certain features. So one of the features is, for example, that you can really isolate certain microtasks that can be easily decomposed. They can be really given to the audience with very clear directions, they have to really be able to be executed without company context in some cases. And practically speaking, so if we think about the traditional processes, of course, in some cases, yes, you can do certain elements, but you need to isolate. Again, we'll come back to the risks related to delivering such a service in such an environment. So, for example, access to the same platform and how to limit, even to deal with the security issues or IP rights, but this is a different story. So yes, definitely certain services are a natural targets for this. But if we are talking about, for example, complex projects, complex services which require big cooperation, big understanding of the specifics of the organization and big coordination, typically they are much more problematic. Things which can actually be decomposed on the smaller tasks, yes, definitely they might be a good candidates for this kind of so for example, some new ideas design, yeah, so it is definitely what you can put into crowdsourcing. What you can put, so can we put, for example, a big software implementation? It is problematic. But can we put, for example, small app development? Yes, we can. And so this is how we should really look at this.
It also sounds like knowledge management and the onboarding process will become a bit more complex, right? Something the industry would have to figure out down the road in order to manage the complexity you just mentioned. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about on how this will actually impact the infrastructure within which we operate as an industry. So sticking with this utopian vision that we have, we selected the processes we want to crowdsource, and some of our crowdsourced employees, are working from the beach, and they are engaging whenever they want with our company, executing tasks that were very precisely defined. There is a certain impact to the office space, and Sylvia, I wanted to ask you that question. So what do you think would be the impact of that trend overall to the way we are leveraging our offices?
I'm not afraid that the office buildings are going to disappear completely from Google Maps. Mobile devices and unlimited access to an internet is giving us an opportunity of working almost everywhere, like you've mentioned, on the beach, at home or in the park. But imagine on one hand a very nice coffee shop just around the corner with a delicious coffee, and which is very often too noisy to concentrate because your lovely neighbor with her lovely kids also like to having a coffee there. And on the other hand, imagine the completely new and modern office environment, totally adapted to your needs, with a breathtaking view because it's located on the 52nd floor of the nice own office building. What would you choose to make your business?
Well, that depends what mood I am and what task at hand I currently have, but I hear you. But
maybe I would like to add something, because I'm a big fan of workplace consulting, and I think we have to a little bit educate our clients and our tenants, because efficiency, efficiency means, because efficiency, it's no longer the minimum number of square meter per person per floor, and efficient, happy and productive people, this is the trend. So the office of the future have to answer the question, what way is the best for your work, right? What temperature do you like? What lighting is the best for your eyes? So it has to be completely adapted to your needs and to the way that you work.
And do you see there is any opportunity for creating different type of infrastructure? So instead of building, 50 stories high buildings, rather creating smaller kind of hub spots where people would come and work, not necessarily, for the same company, but at the same space, kind of a shared space for people who are working in the crowdsourcing model. Do you think that this could be part of this future vision?
I can use an example of our project Gdański Business Center. It's located in Warsaw, not in Gdansk, and that project has been developed in completely non-office environment. Gdański Business Center was surrounded by residential development, green areas and sport facilities, but it had one fundamental value, the best connection with public communication in town. We had some doubt starting this development, because there was a second line, it was not very visible from the main streets, and it was a bit out of these big office hubs in Warsaw. But during the leases process of this project, we've noticed that it was very suitable for headquarters as well as for shared service centers. Incubation area, big floor plates, and possibility of future expanding within our complex, that was really a perfect environment for shared service companies. And we found the companies like Aviva, KPMG, or IC Nielsen that located the offices there.
So Zuza, over to you. So if a crowdsourced employee, he's got a choice between working from his home or a restaurant, for that sake, or the office of the future, what would the office of the future look like? And if actually his workplace at home would change with that new model. Any thoughts on that?
Okay, office of the future is always a difficult question. But I think that we still go back to the way we like to work, because some people, they really appreciate working from home. Honestly, right now I'm changing the way of working, so I speak of my own experience, because I'm living in 2 countries and trying to manage the team which is here in Poland. So of course, first of all, the place to work at home, which has to be ergonomic, because I want it to be ergonomic so I can work. But also we can see more and more, I mean in Poland, but in Europe and US, there is a lot of such examples, of course, co-working spaces and co-creation spaces. So I think one of the biggest organization which is actually putting together all of these spaces is Liquid Space in US. It's a common platform where you can choose the place for your work, for the meeting. And what they added lately, they do the service also for the companies. So if you have many locations and you also want to manage and be able to, let's say, move the employees from one place to another, is also possible. I think it's the question how we want the crowdsourcing to be done. So whether we want the people to come to our office and to make the space for them, or we are okay if they perform their tasks somewhere else. So I think it's also very individual to the company how they would like to go with this crowdsourcing.
Can you elaborate a bit more on this New York example? I'm curious on what is the payment model for that. Is it by the hour or you by subscription?
There are many options. So you can have by hour, you have like cafeteria, so you're actually like in Starbucks way. So you have Wi-Fi, coffee, the standard things. Then you have the meeting rooms and a workspace. So you can have by hours, by days, or you can have a number of days which can be used. So there are different, of course, facilities. If you need to print something, you can have a virtual office there as well. So honestly, you can come, you can meet a lot of people, but at the same time, you have the right place to work. So as Sylvia said, it's not always the cafeteria which is outside the best place, because you're sitting like this. You have a lot of buzz around you, which is nice, but at some point it's getting on your nerves. So you like this idea, you like this buzz, but you want it to be more professional. And I think this is what is going to come with all of the ideas of our developers. And what I had before in the panel, the campus idea, so that we build the places which are more integrated, more variable. I mean, there are different areas, but they're still professional. So I think this is the step right now, that we do something in a way not so professional as we work where we want, but we need to professionalize this area as well, probably.
Maybe I would like to add something to what you've said, because I think that the offices that are going to be, that will remain just the places where people go to work, have no future. And I think that there is no future also for repeatable open spaces, suspending ceiling, technical floors, and a few more technical parameters. I think that the new office, it's just a platform when the people can meet, talk, and share the ideas. It's some kind of a creative space, allowing the people to do the work in the best possible way.
I quite like the concept of those campuses. I think the big question is, how do you finance that? Because it looks like someone needs to put money on the table and take a big risk and say, let's see if this is going to work. Krzysztof, any thoughts on?
Yeah, so of course we had a discussion about that. You know, why companies are actually looking for this. We talk about, you know, this for a couple of years, that the main limitation of the whole industry is actually HR, especially in the main cities where the, you know, labor market is becoming tight. So companies, for, you know, as Agnieszka said, for some functions are looking, you know, further, but they also want flexibility. So they don't want to commit to, let's say, 5 or 10-year lease, and they don't know how the business will evolve. So they will look into smaller cities definitely, but we need professional operators who will somehow, you know, put a professional quality of this environment, and also, of course, commit to, you know, a longer lease, which allows developer actually to finance the project. So, you know, companies, there are such companies already in Poland. I think there will be more. There are some newcomers looking around. For now, it's the biggest, let's say, chunk of this industry is in Warsaw, but there's more in Kraków, Wrocław, and major cities. But I believe there will be like smaller hubs, like 500 to 1,000 square meters in cities like, you know, Radom, Bydgoszcz, Szczecin, Rzeszów, etc., where companies can, you know, look for, you know, smaller groups of people with some very specific skills, or not necessarily interested into moving into bigger hubs in, you know, main regional cities. So I believe that the answer is that we should look for, you know, professional operators, which then makes sense for developer to build a building. Because currently, if you want to find a place for, let's say, 5 people or 10 people in Szczecin, you go to an old C-class office building or Z-class office building with completely no quality, no professional management, which, you know, somehow, you know, looks more like a tax office or from, you know, office building 20 years old. So that's something I don't think companies really want, and that's something employees will not be interested in. So I think that's not that complicated to be organized.
To add to all of this, what you have, Krzysztof, said, I would just like to explain how it looks from developer point of view, because we are in this difficult situation that we have kind of 2 clients. One client is our tenant, is a future occupier of the office building, but at the end we have this institutional investor that's going to buy the building from us. So for the clients, the flexibility, working on demand, space on demand, this is something that they would like to have right now. But institutional investors, they are looking for stable and long-term cash flows, and we have to somehow combine those 2 very difficult issues.
It looks like we'll need some intermediary party that will finance the entire project until all of the parties involved actually believe in the business model.
Or we need a success to show that it's really working, even if the rules are a bit different.
True.
I think, sorry, I agree, because when you look at Tri-City, I mean, for many years, just off topic, but for many years, it has not been growing fast enough when it comes to new shared services or BPOs coming to Gdansk, because there was no office space. Nobody wanted to take that risk to build the office space that they didn't know if they're going to get tenants or not. So it is risky, but
I mean, it's risky,
it's a
but
good example.
but I think there are a lot of examples right now. I just wanted to mention there is a reconstruction of a building in London. The area it's called Hero East, where actually I really suggest to see the video of it. The place where it's a place for startups, corporations, all of the campus. So there are such examples. So it's not that there are no examples and we are here on a greenfield. It's I think you know, finding the right investor who actually believes in such idea.
But we don't need a huge scale, you know, Przemek. You know,
Exactly.
the challenge is that it's quite unpredictable, yes, from, let's say, developer's perspective or this, let's say, small operator perspective. But we're not talking about huge risk. We can start from something smaller and then, you know, evolve.
Existing
And actually,
buildings.
some developers are doing that as additional, let's say, amenity within their buildings. They just provide some startup facility, or they decide that one floor will be ready for really flexible contracts. So that's something which is going to happen, and that's something which, let's say big players are also looking around. Is this, office park or big office building, provides nice environment, attractive for young people who can bring some new ideas and values.
So if there are any shared space operators in the room here, I think I sense some business opportunity for you. From speaking from the shared services operator perspective, I think we have a lot of demand for actually having some flexibility and renting desks, for a couple of days, months or weeks. But we want to have flexibility, not like a 5-year contract on that. So I think that's an opportunity for exploring new business. The last question I want to ask to you guys before I open that for questions to the floor is, can you envision an Uber-like entrant to the shared services market that will disrupt the way we operate? So, okay, Agnieszka, can you see someone coming in and saying, okay, we are the Uber of business services. We have the HubSpots, we have the crowd working for us. We will take your business, Accenture. Do you think this is possible?
I think right now what we are facing is that the traditional models are broken, and but still they can exist in parallel. So practically, when you speak about business services, for me, it is already happening, because this is not achieved of a, let's say, solution where you have to have 1,000 people, whatever. But practically speaking, you can achieve this through a very deep specialization, proposing, for example, on-demand service, which is, for example, very specific to specific areas. So can be some design thinking, or just, for example, the UX design, whatever, and providing this as on demand. So this is happening, right? So if we refer to Uber, I think it is more about the scale, because I think we have hundreds or thousands of services like this. But the question is how really to scale up to this size, that this is really a winning solution, and this taking the majority of the market share. And actually, because even iTaxi, or I don't remember how is the name, but there are a number of solutions like this. Even Facebook, when it is not so crowdsourcing solution, but nevertheless, it actually appeared to be really dominating once it took over the majority of the market share. So I would say that there is no worry. I think it is very good that we have a number of alternative, let's say, ideas and companies working in our space. In many cases, we as Accenture are reusing this, to as well challenge our typical or more traditional thinking in some cases. But if you want to have Uber, it is really a question how to go through this break-even point and become global.
Can you envision any risks for the real estate industry, Krzysztof?
Honestly, I see rather an opportunity, especially if it comes down to providing some, startup environment for smaller cities. I think within the big cities, I see rather impact on how the companies are going to work or what kind of environment they are looking for. I don't think there is a big risk. What we observe already, that companies are already more interested even in more, let's say, efficient but not necessarily purely financial-wise solutions. So they're ready to pay more for something which better fits their business or provides something better for their employees. And I think it's becoming more interesting and stronger trend. I think crowdsourcing is opportunity to scale up the whole industry for Poland, just to be more flexible and react much faster, plus grow over with not so big geographical limitations. So that's what I rather see.
Suza, for office solutions, is that a risk or opportunity?
Honestly, I can't wait.
Okay.
Because we were observing this some time ago already. There are, as I said, already the ideas, the projects which were done in Western Europe or in US. So I can't wait that it really starts in Poland, because it's a huge opportunity. And I think for you, I mean, as a clients, as a companies, because more and more you want to have the biggest flexibility, you're asking, okay, if we go for this solution, is it going to be good in 2 years, in 3 years? And honestly, no one has this answer. So the faster we start this process, today Nicholas Lindberg from Echo Investment was presenting also the Q22. They're actually doing one of the floor which going to be used by all of the tenants off charge. with meeting rooms, different areas which are not going to be implemented with the normal offices. So it started. So just let's wait and see and benefit from it.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for developers as well, because we would like to be responsible for creating an offices for happy and very creative people. And when you think about the efficiency in this way, not the number of square meter per floor, and then you started to create the space when people just feel good and nice, and when you enjoy work, you do better work. When you do better work, you just simply have a better business.
So just to sum it up, first of all, it is already happening, and it has been happening. So crowdsourcing is not something that we can avoid. 2, most of us look at it as a certain opportunity to expand our scope and the business and actually be having more flexibility in the way we manage the business. Wanted to see if there are any questions from the audience before we wrap it up. Anyone? I cannot see. Well, then thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.